So once again, a firm's objective is to maximize profit. So their objective is to maximize pi, which is an equation that looks like TR minus TC. TR being total revenue, TC being total cost. We know what total revenue looks like. All we need really is a demand function and a price and quantity demanded somewhere on that function, and you get P times Q. The question is, what does total cost look like? And we haven't explored that yet, particularly at the firm level. So let's explore what total cost looks like. Now, economists generally group costs into two areas. Okay, now you remember way back in one of the first videos we spoke about, we had this definition for sunk costs, which was an irretrievable costs. That cost, if you remember, we argued does not play a role in the day-to-day decision-making process of an economic agent. And it doesn't play a role in the day-to-day decision-making process of the output level of a firm either, okay? So total cost isn't going to involve sunk costs. But the costs it does involve, we typically group into two categories. We typically say total cost equals total variable cost plus total fixed cost, okay? So that's TVC for total variable cost, and that's TFC for total fixed cost. The sum of these two costs equals total cost, okay? Now, what is total variable cost? Total variable cost is a cost that is a function of Q. So it's a function of the firm's level of output. Okay, so if for instance, if I increase the amount of labor in my firm, the total wage bill rises. And total variable costs would rise. If I fire some employees, let some employees go, my wage bill falls, my total variable costs would fall. If I'm a plumber and I'm running a plumbing service company, if I run fewer trucks, my gas bill will be lower, so my total variable cost bill will be lower. If I run more trucks to address more service calls, so I'm effectively increasing the amount of Q I'm producing, my gasoline bill will rise because I have to fuel more trucks, and therefore my total variable cost bill will also rise. And you can think of any material input to a production process. So, for instance, a resource input to a production process. So, if I'm making door hinges that are made of steel. Well, the more door hinges I make, in other words, the higher the level of Q, the more steel I will need, and therefore my total steel cost will increase, and vice versa. Okay, so total variable cost, we generally think of labor cost. We generally think of resource input costs. Okay, and resource inputs can involve tangible items. Okay, so things like I was just talking about, steel and resource inputs. If I'm making plastic boxes, I need more plastic if I increase Q. If I want to make more boxes, if I don't want to make as many boxes, I don't need as much plastic to form into boxes. Now, those would be like tangible resource inputs. Non-tangible resource inputs would be something like Utilities, okay, electricity. If I want to run my assembly lines more often because I need to increase Q, the amount of electricity I need, or natural gas, or whatever I need to be able to drive those assembly lines increases, and vice versa, and that'll change my variable cost bill. So the bottom line is, any cost that is a function of the output level that changes when I change Q is a total variable cost, can be categorized as a variable cost. Total fixed cost, on the other hand, is exactly the opposite. It's a cost that is not a function of Q. Okay? And it seems odd that there would be a cost in the production process that's not a function of Q, but it exists all the time. For instance, you get a large corporation that builds a factory to produce some level of Q. Well, they don't pay cash for that factory. They borrow money to pay to build that factory with, and they have a loan payment. They have a fixed payment on that loan. If I'm producing 0 Q, I still have to make that fixed loan payment. If I'm producing 1,000,000 Q, well, that fixed loan payment doesn't change. It's exactly the same. In other words, no matter what my level of output is, my fixed cost will remain the same. We generally think of things like property taxes, say, that the um, um, that the warehouse sits on, the land that you have to, the taxes on the land that you have to pay where the warehouse sits, or where the factory sits, or whatever. We generally think of any sort of loan payments as being not a function of Q, etc. So again, let's go back to the plumber. Okay, so plumber is providing a service to his customers, and every customer is a Q. Okay, if he's just assume he's running one truck. Well, he's got a truck payment on that truck. If he services no customers that day, well, guess what? He's still got the truck payment, and it's the same amount as if he's running that truck 24/7. Okay, that would be a fixed cost. Okay, that is a cost that is not a function of Q. These two together then make up total cost, and that's what we're going to explore further.